Welcome to the Embracing Race podcast. All episodes were recorded in advance, so don't be alarmed if the timeline seems a little bit cattywampus.
We did it! My name is Shawnee. I am your host. This is another episode of Embracing Race Conversations with Truth and Intention. Jesse, we did it.
We did episode 3 or 2. Episode 2.
Yes.
I've lost track at this point.
Okay, I just want to set the stage for everybody. Apparently, I like saying that. I was going through old videos and I set the stage. And even though this is a podcast, I use my hands a lot.
That's okay. We have a video recording.
Is it on gallery view? Because I despise speaker view.
It should be on gallery view.
It should. And when we record it and save the recording, it should be on gallery view. I'm going to be really mad if it's not.
I understand. We'll figure it out. It out.
I am very excited. I don't know why. I feel something with this podcast is like just going to just be amazing. And I know that we are in a sea of podcasts. I mean, people can choose wherever they want to listen to, but I really hope they listen to this because I think we are a great duo.
I think so too. I already know people were listening to it yesterday.
I know. I was so excited. Excited.
Sally texted me at like 9 o'clock last night to be like, "Hey, I understood that joke that you guys told," and I'm like, "Great."
What joke was that?
I don't know. I don't remember what it was, but I was glad that she got it.
I'm so happy. I'm so excited. So we're switching up a little bit. We had recorded an episode that would be airing next Tuesday, which would be the 22nd.
24th.
But the 24th. What?
24th.
That is correct because there's 7 plus 17 is 24. Yes.
You're very good at the maths.
Not generally. The Holy Spirit did that. However, I really, one of the things that I envisioned for this podcast was to be like I want to be cool. My kids call me Champ. Champ is not, you do not want to be Champ. Now, which I think is funny because I believe like the term champ being not cool, like that means that you're corny.
Yeah.
Derives from the word champion. And I think to me, I'm just, I'm a word nerd. Sounds like they're trying to be funny and make champ the opposite. And it's just funny because my kids call me champ all the time, but I want it to be but not necessarily cool, but I definitely want to be relevant. And I want this podcast to really represent our opinions of what is happening around us in the world today. Because ever since the insurrection, right? Or even before that, but really the insurrection, when I was watching the insurrection from my home and I saw posters of Jesus Saves.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, why y'all bringing Jesus to the insurrection? Because this is not a Jesus thing. And ever since then, I wanted to be a counter voice to those that believe that Jesus would be entertaining their side of what humanity really means, of what loving your neighbor really means. Yeah. Of what justice means. And so I wanted to be in the conversation of there is an alternative.
Absolutely.
For those that are looking to perhaps follow Jesus. I mean, we both follow Jesus. Absolutely. And we could be no different but yet and still have so many different there are differences, but then there are so many similarities. And I wanted to highlight the two and show people that the two can live in community. Yep. And that there is a both and, like, you don't have to choose one to do the other, if that makes sense, or be the other.
Yeah, but I mean, I still think at the core of doing one or the other, it has to be to follow Christ's commandment of loving God and loving neighbor. Yes. And if you aren't in agreement on doing that, then you're not going to be in agreement on anything else. And at that point, it becomes really difficult to exist in community.
And there it is.
And that's our challenge. It's
yes. Right. And so with that being said, I was like, I want to talk about Dr. Martin Luther King, because I mean, really, Jesse, I think, just for me, growing up in upstate New York, watching my mom. So I have a story about watching my mother go door to door to get signatures from voters to make it a holiday in New York State. Mm-hmm. I remember my mother doing that in I was probably between 8 or 9, mm-hmm. maybe a little bit younger than that. It was fascinating because, mind you, we were in upstate New York where I was the only Black kid in my class, all the way my mother, and I didn't even think about how perhaps dangerous that could have been, even in New York.
Yeah.
And so I don't remember a time where my house didn't celebrate his birthday. Right. Even before it was a holiday, my mother took off.
Yeah.
My mother took off. She called it a mental health day. And usually we weren't in, because it was a 3-day weekend, and we were 3 hours from the city, we'd either be somewhere in New York City with my godmother, Lorraine, who was always involved in some type of community demonstration of some sort, was always she used to teach these classes at the Salvation Army, I remember, and would be so for me, it was it's a no-brainer. Yeah. And then you were sharing how growing up, I don't want to put words on your mouth.
I was sharing how growing up, I lived in Virginia from the time that I was 2 until I was 16. And growing up in Virginia, in Virginia Beach, it was not Martin Luther King Jr. Day. It was Lee Jackson King Day. And that's what it said on all of the official school calendars, and outside of the schools, they would put it on their banners or whatever. It would be Lee Jackson King Day. I don't know if it still is Lee Jackson King Day. We know enough people in Virginia. We should probably ask them.
Right.
And it was celebrating Robert E. Lee and I believe Stonewall Jackson in conjunction with Martin Luther King Jr. So you had two people who fought for the Confederacy, who were pro-slavery, who seceded from the nation because they were so anti-Black. And then you have that held up next to Martin Luther King Jr., who was the antithesis of all of that. And I don't know, and I was saying to you, I didn't know up until I moved to Pittsburgh that it wasn't Lee Jackson King Day everywhere else, that it was just Martin Luther King Day. And that was mind-boggling to me. And the fact that I didn't know until I was a teenager later, once I moved to Pittsburgh, that was even outrageous, because we didn't even know who Lee and Jackson were. It was just the name of the day. We had no idea that we were celebrating slavery and civil rights at the same time.
That is just mind-boggling to me. And also it goes to show just the level of how white supremacy just infiltrates almost everything. right? All the way down to schools, and yet you don't even know why you're celebrating what you're celebrating. Like it just like, so
Yeah.
we're just doing things out of habit or because somebody told us,
Because that's the way it's always
because
been
that's the
done.
way it's always been.
Yeah. Well, it goes to like when I mean, obviously, we just celebrated Martin Luther King Day not long ago, and um, at the same time, you see these hordes of white people celebrating and putting up their Canva created memes or whatever, and like, God bless Martin Luther King, and we should be more like Martin Luther King Jr., and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, 6 weeks ago, you were the one who was protesting because there was a black Ariel. And now
Right.
you're sitting here telling me, let's stand up for civil rights and peace and justice and blah, 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 blah. Like,
Yeah. I've also in my old age have come to realize how just misinformed we are. I'm just not even like I'm putting that as a blanket statement. It is not just white people, but a lot of black people as well. A lot of people in general. Let's not even just go there. We're just misinformed with how um we have like just taken his words and uh like set it in our own agenda. Like, once, listen, this goes back to when Ronald Reagan was president. Ever since he started quoting Martin Luther King, every Republican after him started quoting King to meet their own agenda.
yeah.
Right? But don't put it in context, because it was more than, I think King's, what I really want people to understand and know, and I hope they do. I hope the people that listen to us know this, that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy should be more than just I have a dream. And it should be more than just I want my kids to play with white kids.
Yeah.
It was bigger than that. And if we get really down to it, we don't have enough time on this show because this is not a 5-hour podcast. However, if we really want to think about his trajectory in, starting with just the civil rights of human beings, but then going into the economic, because once he started getting poor white people on board, they did not like that. And it was quite very similar to Fred Hampton. Yeah. When Fred Hampton, he was the member of the Black Panther Party. And people can argue that was radical, it wasn't Christian, whatever. It sounded real Christian-like, that you wanted to help the poor and feed the needy and take care of the widows and the orphans, right? Yeah. But when he was trying to bring people together, that is when the FBI murdered him. Let's be real.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right? And so, and that's what you need to go, research and find for yourself, because it's bigger than, so every year since my kids can read, we read the letter to Birmingham jail on the birthday of Dr. King. And so this is like a staple in our house. It's 6 pages. I suggest anybody that wants to know anything about who we're celebrating should read it, and also it was interesting. So when we read it on Monday, we were like in the middle of page 4, and one of my kids said, "Oh, he left no crumbs." So okay. So pause. So when someone says they ate, that's a good thing. Like if you're singing and you did a good job, she ate, they ate, whatever, right? If Simone Biles came and got all perfect 10s, she ate. Like that's an example of somebody like going in and doing an amazing job in their craft, right? And so we're reading this, and like almost 6 of his quotes is found in that letter, right? Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, found in that letter, right? Mm-hmm. And talking about waiting and why should we wait, and when it's he talks about, because he's writing in response to white ministry leaders of that day upset that he was protesting. And I just realized, and even though I read this letter every year, that it was all about capitalism. They was upset that these businesses were being affected because they had boycotted these businesses.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they were really mad.
Yeah.
And he was writing to white ministry leaders, the white moderate. And I just found it fascinating that, like, so my daughter points out to me, she's like, you wrote a workbook for white ministry leaders. I didn't even make the connection, Jesse, honestly, until Monday. I'm like, I did write a workbook for white people. That's interesting.
You should go ahead and plug that right now, Shawnee. Awkward silence. You can find it on Amazon.com.
Yes, or go to my website. So
go to her website.
I have a few here. But yeah, I was like, that letter just, it rings true today as well. Like, we're still fighting for the same type of just equity and humanity. And it's like, yes, we've come far, but we've got a long way to go. So I had to Google, because I wanted to see. I don't think Virginia was the only state to like rename.
Yeah.
So I Googled. So in Alabama, it was called Robert E. Lee Martin Luther King Jr. No brainer there. Yeah. Arizona called it a Civil Rights Day. And Arizona was almost the last state to ratify it. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah. Arkansas called it, I want to know, when was Robert E. Lee's birthday anyway? Was his birthday in January? Because that would make entirely no sense if his birthday is like in March or something.
Let me see. January 19th.
Oh, okay. Well, in Arkansas, it's known as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day and Robert E. Lee's birthday. And then in 2017, they changed it strictly to Dr. Martin Luther King Day, and they moved Robert E. Lee to October.
Yeah, because that's when he died.
Oh.
Yeah.
In Idaho, it's Human Rights Day. I just can't.
But still, it's still celebrating Confederate soldiers.
In Virginia, so to answer your question, in 2000, Lee Jackson Day was moved to the Friday before. So so Virginians get a 4-day holiday, a four-day weekend. So they celebrate Lee Jackson on Friday and they celebrate MLK on Monday.
And they still do that to today.
As of 2000, yes. Oh, excuse me. In 2020, Virginia eliminated Lee Jackson Day altogether. Because it
took them 20 years to eliminate it.
Look, David, because they have been tearing down those daggone statues in Virginia for the past 10 years. In Wyoming, it's called Martin Luther King Day, Wyoming Equality Day. Liz Byrd, the first Black woman in the Wyoming legislature, introduced the bill in 1991 to recognize MLK as a paid state holiday. Oh my gosh, so they've only been celebrating it since 91. But it was approved as a federal holiday in 1986. That's what I'm saying. I remember being a kid saying like not all states had it as a federal holiday. Yeah. And you know what else has been bothering me about it is that I got this meme from a friend that said something about and I didn't know how to respond because I didn't really. I was taken aback by it, but it basically was like, let me pull up this meme, and that was trending too. And I'm like, I can't remember what my daughter had mentioned it to me, and she had a really great clap back for it. But there was this meme talking about my job don't give an AF. Who had a dream? We still got to work on Monday. Now, I have a friend who works for a company. We're not going to talk about the company name, who's never had the day off, right? Because it's considered like, okay, so how many federal holidays do we get a year? Like 10?
I have lost track.
Yeah, me too, because I don't work in corporate anymore, so I don't even look at that stuff. I take off when the heck I want to take off.
Yes, there are 10. You were right.
Okay, so some private companies choose to only give their employees 8.
Okay.
And they usually play with either MLK, President's Day, and Veterans Day.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the 3 that they kind of like you're about to lose.
Right.
What's your take on that?
I would rather lose Columbus Day.
Let's talk about that.
Like, why are we still celebrating Columbus? Like, the fact that people are still like pissy about whether or not to call it Indigenous Peoples Day because they would rather call it Columbus Day and celebrate a complete fart of a human being. Like, and yet we're arguing about whether or not we should take Veterans Day, President's Day, or MLK Day. Like, why not get rid of the genocidal maniac? That would be a great idea.
That would be a perfect idea. And okay, so Joy Reid, who someone told me, I don't even remember who this was, had to be someone like over 70, told me when I was doing the Sharon Shani show, you're such a good interviewer. You remind me of Joy Reid. I don't see the similarity, but hey, we're gonna go with it. So Joy Reid was breaking down why we even celebrate quote unquote Columbus Indigenous Day. Mm-hmm. And it was originally, so she broke down the history. I'm going to paraphrase it, right? So basically, essentially, Italian immigrants, when they came over to America, were actually, because of their dark skin complexion, migrated to Black communities. Black and Italian communities actually grew together, right? I thought this was fascinating for so many reasons, but that's another show. Anyway, down in New Orleans, a white woman is found to be raped and brutally attacked. And they blamed it on a mob of Italian men. The Catholic Church of Italy stepped in because they were, I can't remember if they actually hung these men, but they were about to lynch them. Mm-hmm. And the Catholic Church stepped in and was like, no, our Italian men did not do this. You blame somebody else. It got real. So it was politics and religion all involved, right? Because the Catholic Church is
the Catholic Church.
Okay, right.
They're powerful.
Powerful beyond measure. Anyway, the president at the time, so this is around I'm gonna say this is around like 1920 or something like that. The president at the time said, no, we're gonna give a holiday because we love Italy. Boom, Columbus Day is now a federal holiday. Are you kidding me?
So let me get this straight. Not only are we celebrating a total like jerk off of a person, but it became a federal holiday to appease the Catholic Church and a group of people who raped a young woman. Is that what you're telling
Allegedly.
me? Allegedly.
Yes.
So we have not only a genocidal maniac that we're celebrating, but we're celebrating it because of rapers.
Yes.
That's what
Yes. Yep.
we're entirely screwed up as a country.
We are. Like, I was like, what the actual hell is this? Yeah, look it up. That, like, it was a whole thing.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
The more you know.
The more you know.
With the star.
Oh, we don't have to pay for that. Because we didn't sing it. It's not a song, right?
No, it's not a song.
All right, because we ain't got no money.
Background.
We don't have any money, but you know,
we didn't
cue the sponsor.
Name the production company. It's okay. We're good. It's all good.
I just like it's just fascinating to me that even okay, so not only is history like hidden, like we learn what I now envision as probably 20 really old white men sit around the table and say this is going to go in American history books for K through 12th, and that's what you learn. But even when you go and pay for college, even as a history major, I'm learning new things.
Yeah.
Like it's like you gotta be specific in what type of history you want to learn. Like I really want to go back and like take quote unquote, and I really have an issue with this, like African American history, because I really think it should be American history anyway.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Like, why do we have to separate it? It's American history.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with all that said, don't just stop there with I have a dream. Learn more about the man that you're celebrating every January. And when you learn more, tell somebody else about it. What is that poet that a lot of the clergy in our denomination use? It said something about go see the world, be astonished, tell somebody. I messed up the quote, but what does she say? It's a quote. Like almost I hear it all the time in Presby circles.
Astonished.
Are you Googling?
I'm trying to.
Thank you. Did it come up?
Is it pay attention, be astonished, tell about it?
Yes.
Mary Oliver.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's definitely in Presby circles.
That's it. Whoa. But pay attention, be astonished.
Tell about it.
Tell about it. Yes. Yeah. I mean, it is the gospel though.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the gospel.
I mean, like, pay attention. Like, look, be astonished. This daggone man rolled the stone away. Like that, I mean, could you imagine?
Yeah.
You gotta tell somebody. You could not keep that a secret.
What would happen if we were more willing to pay attention, be astonished, and then have a conversation about it? Like, what would the world look like?
Oh, oh my gosh, that's a great question, Jessie. I think it would be just a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Because every time I have a God moment, I tell about it. Like I know hands down it was only God. Yeah. And I'm so excited.
Absolutely.
Like, okay, so I have these church keys. I thought I lost the church keys back in 2020. Right? And so pandemic hit, didn't really need church keys, right? And I've gone 2 years without having church keys, which was not a bad thing, because if you have keys, you already know that you do a lot. But anyway, when I found those keys about 2 months ago, like, and it was in a moment of like unexpectedness. And it was just like literally the Holy Spirit was like, wear your green jacket today. And they were and the keys were in the jacket. And Alicia was like, you haven't worn that in 2 years? Apparently not. Which was so funny to us because it was like my go-to jacket at the time. But apparently I didn't go outside for
2 years.
For 2 years. And I told everybody that key story because I was so excited.
But even still, like, even if it's something that's not necessarily exciting, like, particularly with white people, when they confront the gospel or they confront history and they pay attention and then are astonished by what they're actually learning.
Right.
Like, what would it be like if we actually just responded with, holy crap, I didn't know that, instead of this is outrageous. Like, it doesn't say pay attention, be astonished, be outraged.
Right.
Like, although on some level you should be outraged if you are complicit in acts of violence or whatever, but like not whatever, that's, you should be outraged.
Right, right.
But like, why be outraged when you can do something about it? And like, hey, I learned that we are complicit in X, Y, or Z. We need to change. Like, why? I think you're right. It could be a very beautiful thing if white people, or all people in general, like actually paid attention and were astonished and instead of outraged.
I think it's
offensive. Like,
I think it's also about, you know, like, because then I really think it's all about power though.
okay.
Like, you can't, like, you're gonna have to let go of power.
Yep.
Or maybe that's how you feel, like, I'm not gonna be able to have the things that, you know, like, you have to figure out a way to live and understand that it's not really giving away your power, it's how do you utilize your power, right? Like, I don't know if I'm making sense.
No, you are. Yeah. I mean, well, like, think about it. So Crossroads, Anti-Racism and Organization Training have put out a whole write up about transformational values, and we were just reading last week about competition versus collaboration and cooperation, and I think that's exactly what you're talking about, like that idea of competition and power hoarding. And if I were to actually pay attention to everything that's going on, in some ways I would have to relinquish the power that I have, which would put me above everybody else, because then I would have to be willing to be
Collaborative
and collaborate and like work cooperatively. Whereas if I stay in this competitive mode, then I can hoard all of this power and I can be in control of what it is that the narrative is, and then I control what people are reading, and then I control what they're paying attention to.
Right.
It's the antithesis of, you know, dismantling white supremacy. But yeah, sorry.
No, I totally agree. And I think also we have to do a better job of, you know, like, understanding that it's okay. Like, I'm not upset. Like, I had to tell a friend the other day, they were like, I feel really bad because I went to my parent and I had to get this money, going through really, really, really nasty divorce, and has to come out of their pocket to pay their spouse, right? Okay. But they didn't have the money, so they asked their dad to front them the money. Mm-hmm. Of course, the father was like, yes, right? And my friend feels bad that she has that privilege. And I wanted to say, girl, shut up. Mm-hmm. Like, that's not, no, right? Like, you're thinking way too far into, like, I mean, she's like, but I'm like, so what you gonna do? Say no and then take 2 more jobs so you can pay off? No. right? And so then, like in the like further along in the conversation, like there's this like beauty comes out because then my friend's like, oh no, you know what? I mean, I can be a blessing to someone else because now I don't have this burden.
Yeah.
I was like, absolutely. That's how you use your privilege and your power. Like, you don't say, no, daddy, don't help me out. That would be ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, if you don't want to use the money, tell him to bring me the money.
Yet another example of over allyship.
Yes. Don't be over allyship in your head. That just doesn't make sense. Do not do that.
Yeah, it's not like Black people or people of color are sitting here going, no, don't do okay for yourself.
That's just like, oh my, okay, that's just like, so P Diddy's son has, and I can't speak on the quality and if it's if it hits or what, because I have never listened to the song. But P Diddy's older son, Chance, I guess he goes by that in pop culture, but he's a musician. He has a #1 hit out, right? People on social media are saying that he only has the #1 hit because he's Sean Combs' son, right? And so he was approaching the airport and he was like, they were like asking him about his success. And he says, I'm blessed. He said, I'm just trying to pay it forward. I'm just trying to keep the legacy going. Seemed like a very humble kid, understood his privilege.
Yeah.
Let's be clear with music. He can get him, I think his name got him in the door. Let's be clear, right? Yeah. But you got one hit. You got one time.
Yep.
And if you don't make it, if you don't make that one opportunity a hit song, they're not going to give you another one, no matter whose child you are. That's right. Just how the music industry works. I'm not even in the music industry, but I know people in the music industry, and that's what it is. If the public doesn't like it, the public has spoken. Yep. But yes, you do get an opportunity, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. No, I don't think there's anything wrong, especially for Black people that have made it and have made it easier for their children to go down. I do not believe in struggle love. I don't believe that in any way, shape, or form. If I make it, my kids are
going to be blessed by your blessing.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's why we should be what we're doing. Yeah. That is exactly why we should be doing what we're doing.
Wasn't it Time Magazine? Was it Time Magazine that just came out with a whole issue about nepotism babies or whatever? Like their whole article. And yes. Then all of a sudden, these people I don't think some people knew were nepotism babies are suddenly being called into question about, are they talented, or is it just because they have famous parents or uncles or aunts? And I'm like, what if I had an uncle that gifted me $1 million to go be successful? I'm not going to be like, no, thank you. I am going to continue to live in squalor and debt and have 3 jobs.
Yes.
Like
why would anybody do that?
Yeah. I don't understand.
I don't understand either. But I just can't get my head around like people who are, who are, I don't know what the expectation is. Like people, these parents did the hard work so their children could have just an easier path. It's not going to be a gravy train. They still got to work, because at the end of the day, yes, there's money, but it is not money where they'll never have to work.
No, yeah, absolutely.
The money is not that long.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like there's not generational wealth. We're trying to establish generational wealth, but it is not Rockefeller. It is not Hilton. It is not Walmart money.
No. It's not corporate.
Is it? They're not. Are their last names Walmart or is it Waltons?
Walton. Well, we understood. Everybody got the reference. Everybody understood. We got
really
you.
tried to say their real name though, but I was like, wait a minute. It is not Sam Walmart. That is not his name.
You're close. But we all understood what you were talking about. It is still Walmart money. So.
It is. Oh, goodness gracious.
All that to say, don't stop with I Have a Dream.
Don't pretty much. That was the whole theme of today's show is don't stop with I Have a Dream. You want to know I had a okay, so I have this like I had these dreams like from a kid. One of the dreams that I've always had was my name on a byline. And so every time I see my name on a byline, I get excited. But this morning I was like, you know what? This just makes me realize that I can keep dreaming. Like when you see your dream come true,
yeah.
Like it just gives you like hope to keep dreaming.
Yeah.
I want y'all to keep dreaming. Whatever y'all dreaming out there, like keep dreaming and keep one foot in front of the other and to fulfill the dream. Because that's what it's all about.
Mm-hmm. Pay attention. Be astonished. Tell about it.
Mary Oliver.
Mary Oliver.
Love you and I love this show and I just can't wait. I don't know what's going to happen, but I just feel really excited about Embracing Race conversation with Truth and Intention.
Yes, and next week we'll be talking with D'Angelo McCroy, who is responsible for all of the graphics that you see and has been with Shawnee on her journey to excellence for many, many years. So
yes.
So look forward to next week as well.
Child, I didn't know half that stuff about D'Angelo until
it was so good. I think it's gonna leave you all questioning things and like frustrated and also amazed. And I look forward to you all sending us emails with your question and comments. If you have any questions or you have comments about the show, please feel free to email embracingracepodcast@gmail.com. If you would like to be a guest on the show, please also reach out to us at embracingracepodcast@gmail.com.
That was real good, Jessie.
I'm going to stop it because we did really well with that. The Embracing Race podcast, hosted by elders Shawnee McElwain and Jesse Littlejohn, tackles all topics from pop culture to faith and the intersectionality of white supremacy and racism. Nothing is off limits, as we hope to educate and transform with radical love. For more information, visit us at embracingrace.online or on Instagram at embracing_race_podcast. If you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, or if you would like to submit a comment or question, please email embracingracepodcast@gmail.com. We are thankful for those who have sponsored the Embracing Race podcast. Shout out to the following groups and people. Gen Out. The Gen Out Youth Chorus. Gen Out is an outreach ensemble of the Gay Men's Chorus of Washington, D.C. Gen Out's mission is to give young LGBTQ+ and allied youth a voice to connect to the community. The ensemble is open to all singers between the ages of 13 and 18. Please visit www.gmcw.org for more information. Interwoven Congregations. Isn't it our hope that we would all come together as a society across the chasm of race and become the beloved community that Dr. King imagined? Interwoven Congregations' mission is to organize and support partnerships between faith communities with different racial compositions in order to foster racial justice and healing. For more information, please visit www.interwovencongregations.org. HOD Records. HOD Records is a talent and artist development company that specializes in artistry development and content creation. Serving the DMV and beyond, HOD creates a family-centered management style that promotes a collaborative spirit. Check out HOD Records on all social media platforms and visit hodrecords.media for more information. If you would like to be a sponsor of the Embracing Race podcast, please email embracingracepodcast@gmail.com.